Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Paul.
And I'm Mark.
It's for episode 39 now?
Yeah.
39. So this week we're going to talk about stand hunting versus stalking versus deer tracking. And so we're not stand hunters.
No,
So
I'll stand hunt a little bit, Paul, but the stand hunting I do is nothing like Keith does. Mine is close range.
Well, so we had to get an expert in here.
Yeah.
So my father-in-law is an avid hunter.
Yeah.
Keith Bernier, and you stand hunt predominantly.
Yeah, pretty much.
And you guys were just talking guns too. You like to shoot long distances.
Yes.
So we had to get Keith's perspective on this one because he's the one that's in the know. So you guys can go back talking guns.
Yeah. Well, he's good at what he does. Keith is good at
a
what
lot
he
of practice.
does.
I mean, there's better than me out there, but I can hold my
Well,
own.
there's always better than all of us, Keith.
Keith is always one. Keith's going to shoot a deer every year.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And how many days a month do you deer hunt?
Usually 3 weeks.
You go.
I get about 3 weeks off.
So
and I'm there every day, morning till dark.
Yeah.
And he usually shoots a deer out behind my house, of all places.
Oh, behind your house and across the road.
Across the road. I remember there was I think it was last year, 2 years ago. Lacey was letting the dog out. It must have been last year.
She heard the shot.
She comes in, she's like, I just heard a gunshot. And literally, I think 10 or 15 minutes later, we get a text from you. Just shot a deer. Lacey's like, I knew it. I heard him. I heard him down back.
Yeah, that was over to Jim. That's where I hunt now, across the road.
Yeah. So Keith, you stand hunt, but you hunt over standing crops. Is that what you?
I got
Yeah, tell us about your setup because you spend a lot of time.
Yeah.
Doing
Well, I used to hunt two places. I had two stands, but I had a bunch of plots out there. I had soybeans. I had broscas. I had they call it a wall hanger. It's 3 or 4 different types of clover. It's got chicory. It's got alfalfa.
Yeah.
So basically, we put food plots. And the thing about stand hunting is once you get a piece of property developed and you get your plots in, you can get a deer every year.
Yeah.
It depends on what you want to shoot.
Yeah.
So in the last 10 years, it ain't just about me shooting a deer every year now. I like to shoot one every year because I like to give it to my son-in-law and my daughter.
We love the meat.
I keep a little bit of it and they live on it. And I enjoy giving it to them. But since 2010, 11, to make it a little challenging, I said, I'm not shooting anything unless it's an 8-point. Not that I'm that good. It's just that once you have a food plot and you have an area developed,
there's nothing
you
wrong
see
with
bucks
that,
every day. I mean, I see bucks, I see spike horns, 3 points, 4 points, 5 points every day.
Right.
I mean, I could tag out the first day if I want on a spike horn, but I got, like I was telling Paul, I got almost a month off. Why wreck my season for
Right.
Now at the end? Yes, I'll take the spike or the 4-point for the meat for the family.
Yeah.
But basically the last 10 years I've switched to 8 points or bigger.
Yep.
Just to give it a little bit of challenge and give me more time out in the field.
Right. Yeah.
Plus, you learn a lot watching.
Oh, God, you do.
When you're sitting in a tree stand I got a homemade blind. It's 8 by 12. So I can fit 3 or 4 people comfortably in there. And I got 4 windows. And I cover one side of the field's 465 yards. In front of me is 320, 328. And to the right, it's 278.
Okay.
So that's my ranges.
Yeah.
Anything in between. Yeah. The average deer I shoot is anywhere from 268 to 400 yards.
Yeah.
And I've shot them 10 feet, 100 yards, 50 yards. I mean, it depends. Yeah. Sometimes they're stupid. They come close to the shack. Wherever they show up.
Wherever they
So you guys are just talking guns. What are you using for a gun now?
I use a Remington Model 700 300 Ultra Mag.
With it, and what's on it for a scope?
And I got a Trijicon 5x20 AccuPoint on it.
Pretty.
I just put that on about 4 or 5 years ago. I used to have a Nikon on it.
And you use custom loads, right?
I reload for it, yeah. I do 168 grain tip triple shock Barnes bullets.
Okay.
I use H1000 powder, and I got them I went through the Hornady loading book, and I got it at the average. It's a high velocity bullet, but it's a safe and it's most accurate at 97 grains of powder. So I'm spitting a bullet out 33.75.
Jeez, I'm terrible.
So it's moving.
Yeah, almost as good as my core locks.
almost.
Yeah, maybe 400 or 500 feet per second
Yeah.
more than what we're shooting fall for sure.
So, but Keith, over the years, it's kind of funny how you matriculated as a hunter, because you actually started with a 7400,
Oh yeah, I still got it. Still
Right?
love it.
and you would field hunt with that.
I was
gun.
shooting deer 355 yards. with
Yeah. So people, they'll be like, "Oh, they're not that accurate." And
it. Oh, they're
that was your go-to.
that
for
was
years.
that was my only hunting gun. That's what I bought. That's what I loved, and I swore by the 270. And I've shot 11 deer with it, so it served me well.
Yeah. And it's in great shape too. It hasn't
It's
been-
still just like new.
Yeah.
I took it to a gunsmith. I had a broken spring. It was jamming on me. He tore it all apart, cleaned it up well, replaced the pin and replaced the broken spring, so it's just like new again. You can
Okay.
take your pinky and slap your slide back. It looks just like new, acts like new.
So even a stand hunter can use a 7400 and be successful. Your dad,
He
Had
had
a
a
pump.
760 Game Master.
Yeah.
270.
I remember we went to the range. First time I ever went to the range with you,
That kicks like a mule.
and they do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that was a tack driver.
Yeah.
I was impressed. I think that was the first pump I ever actually saw in action. And I can remember you had quite the system at the range. It was the first time I ever saw someone do this. So at 100 yards, this is when you were using your semi,
Yeah.
your 7400. I remember you'd have 2 orange dots.
Yep.
You'd have your
One
first,
to aim at.
yeah, you'd have your first orange dot that you'd aim at. And then you'd have a smaller orange dot, about 2.5 inches high, 2 inches high.
Three, for my 270, it was 3 inches high, 3.5.
And you're like, I aim at this one, and I want
wanna-
to take out the bullseye in the top one.
Yep.
And it was like money.
And that would put me dead on at, when my 270 semi-automatic, 3.5 inches high at 100 would put me dead on at 325.
Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
that's how I sight my rifle in, Paul. They're for the same thing.
Yeah,
About 2 inches high, Keith, and they say your I forget what the not the point of impact, but they have a phrase for it. You're good from 0 to
250, 275.
yeah. That
About
3
2
inch.
inches, you'd be about 250.
You're
on
never more
270.
than 3 inches
You'll be-
high or 3 inches low.
Yeah, if you aim in the
from-
kill, you're still going to be within.
Yeah.
You're good. You don't have to worry
So
about
that's generally when
But me as a field hunter, that wasn't enough for me because
No, you're more
I was
accurate.
shooting deer 350,
Yeah.
400 yards.
yeah.
And when you see a buck of a lifetime, a lot of them big bucks, you guys done it long enough. You chase them. I mean, when you get on a track, you pretty much know if it's going to be big or not. When you get on a huge track, you know you're going to. I've done it twice with Paul, and it just blew my mind because we come up on deer both times, and I
think-
got caught with my pants down. I had my gun over my shoulder.
Yeah,
and
that
one
was
of
a
the
big
biggest
buck.
8 points I ever seen in my
We'll
life.
tell that story in a bit, because I think every time you've been tracking with me,
We've seen deer.
we've had big deer.
big deer.
every
Big deer.
time.
Yeah, way
was-
way over 200 pounds.
So did you ever do any stalking?
I done it twice by myself, and I was successful both times.
Was that
Believe it or
down
not. Down to Millinocket, down to Shin
Millinocket.
Pond?
Yep.
Yeah.
You shot a nice 10-pointer.
I got a nice 10-point down there. I tracked him, and I tracked him, and I tracked him. The snow was about 2 or 3 feet deep, 2 feet deep, and it was in a bunch of cuttings. So there's a bunch of trees that were.
Yeah.
So you'd step and think it was only up to your knees. Next thing you know, you're above your crotch. Well, I had all that wool on. I'm sweating. This went on for about an hour and a half. Then I got upset. And I said, I can't do this. He was just bringing me in circles. He was just circling me around. I couldn't find him. So I just got upset, and I said, I'm going to head back to the truck. So I was looking for the tote road. I knew I came down a hill, down a tote road. So I was looking for the tote road to get back up the hill. So I'm walking across it. Oh, there's a tote road. I get to it, and there's no tracks. I said, don't tell me that turned me around and brought me.
Yeah.
I'm a little pansy in the woods. I'm not used to it, so I'm scared to get lost. And
I think
spend
a
the
lot
night
of
in the
people
woods.
are. It's
So
intimidating.
that's what.
Especially,
That's pretty much what's kept me from doing that a lot, because once you take off on a trail, you don't really pay attention where you're at. You're after the
No.
buck. Well, you do this for 6-7 hours. Well, like you guys will take off in the morning, first thing on the track. By 12 o'clock, if you ain't caught it, you need to turn around because
Yeah.
you're going to be in the dark.
you know what's funny? A lot of the times, I'm like, I have no idea where I am, right? So, I mean, you know generally where you are, but it's like, okay, how far away am I from the truck? You turn on your GPS or whatever, and you're like,
You're right there.
holy frick,
Yeah.
I just did a big circle today.
Yeah.
I'm not too far at all.
Like I said, I got to that tote road. It wasn't that one. So I looked through the woods because there was all kinds of snow on the ground. It was third week of hunting season. And I saw another tote road, and I saw the snow all messed up. I said, that's got to be the one. So I hoofed it across, got over my shoulder, sweating like crazy. And I got up to the edge, and there was like a bank I had to go up. So I grabbed a limb, and I stepped on a branch to step up. And when I stepped up on the road, the 10-point stepped up at the same time we met face to face.
Jeez.
Me with my gun on my shoulder.
Yeah.
And if you have ever heard I've never seen it, but I've seen it that day where a deer's eyes get the size of silver dollars.
He's like, "Oh,
Because
crap."
mine did the same thing.
Yeah.
It spun and run. And I'm like, what just happened here? Well, it was running down the hill. And at the bottom of the hill, they had a place where they were yarding their wood and making a turnaround. I said, it's going to cross down there. So I took off running, took the gun off my shoulder, made sure the safety was on. I ran down the hill. All of a sudden, I couldn't hear the snapping no more. And I said, oh, my God. I chased that deer away. And there was a stump there, probably 3 feet high, good stump, about a couple feet wide. So I stood up on that. And then I heard, and I looked behind me. I ran right by him.
Yeah.
And there was jack furs, and I could see the horns coming over the jack furs, coming over. And about from me to Paul, where we are right now, about 10 feet, I looked at the last jack fur, and I said, that's going to come right out in the opening. So I put the scope on the last jack fur right out in the open, kept both eyes open. When he jumped out, I pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
There he fell, caught him right in the
Yeah.
neck.
No kidding.
10 feet away.
That was with the 7400.
That was with my 7400, yeah.
No.
So stalking, a little different than tracking, if you could technically.
Right.
You kind of, and I always remember Jim Shockey saying, if you stalk, which I'm terrible at because I don't have any patience, but put all your pieces of clothing on, your warm hunting gear,
Right.
and if you break a sweat,
You're going too
you're
fast.
moving too fast
Yeah.
stalking.
Okay.
And I'm like, holy smokes, I
Yeah.
couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were just talking a while ago about stalking, and
Yeah.
in lieu of stalking, I usually am out just poking around looking for a sign. and
It turns into scouting.
it turns into more of a scouting mission.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because we actually had someone that asked a question.
Because you guys are by blood trackers.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get
Oh,
on the
that's what I
track
like
and
to
you
do.
go.
But we had a guy asked a question, like the difference between stand hunting, stalking, and tracking. And so I was like, oh, well, yeah, we'll discuss that. So that one you were actually tracking that deer?
I was tracking
Originally?
it, and it lost me, yeah.
Okay.
So then I was just looking to get the heck out of there
You
and
guys
get back up to my truck. And we
Boom.
bumped in, we ran, and he must have circled me again, and we met face to
All
face. That I should have never got that deer. By rights, that should have took off and
Hey, that
should have
stuff
been on the
happens.
backside of Baxter State Park and never came
Yeah.
back.
That stuff happens. Sometimes you turn around and run.
Yep.
Right.
I mean, you've done it before.
Oh,
And
yes.
then
Yeah.
the other time I did it down there was an 8-point, and I bleeded him in with a doe. I was sitting on top of an
Oh, no
knoll
kidding. Yeah.
on a deer trail, so I could see down through the woods where the trail was, and I hit the doe bleed. The 6th time I hit the doe bleed, I could hear the snapping of the branches, and he come right in with his head down. So I shot him about 100 yards away, right down a hill, shot him right in the spine. He dropped right there. So that's the 2 I got while
right.
actually in the woods, semi-close. That wasn't tracking. That was stalking.
Yeah. So then you went to, because early on you just kind of field hunted, right?
I field
just
hunted.
checking fields,
Yeah.
checking fields.
Go.
Now you're stationary.
Now I'm stationary. I got one field I hunt, and that's it.
And as you mentioned, food plots.
Yeah.
And you get a nice shack that
Yeah, got a wicked shack, yeah.
comfy.
Oh, yeah.
That's an elevated stand, Keith.
Yeah,
Is that
she's
elevated?
16 feet in the air.
No kidding. Yeah. And insulated and
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Insulated. I heat it with a
Styling.
big buddy heater.
Oh
And
my
you
God.
obviously it stays there year round. You
Oh,
don't
yeah.
have to remove it or
No, it's
whatever.
permanent. It's on
Yeah.
a cement pad and everything.
Wow.
The
Oh, that's
landowner said if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And he put
Yeah.
a cement pad down, and he made storage underneath. He stores his snowblower for his big tractor underneath, and I hunt on top.
No
kidding.
kidding.
Yeah.
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 Now,
So-
does he, the landowner,
yeah.
he hunts there?
I got him hunting with me. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
He shot,
That's good.
he's got two. And he shot an 8-point there a couple years ago. He got a spike horn. And he's got 3 so far with me in the last 10 years.
Wow,
Yeah,
okay.
excellent.
He don't go out all the time, but he likes
Right.
to come out and sit.
He's not as dedicated to it as you are,
No.
Keith.
Yeah.
But when he wants to go, it's his land. He's more than welcome to come sit with me.
So you've gone tracking with me a few times.
Yep.
Every time
We saw a big buck.
that first time you went, remember that was, I can't remember if we went up on a whim. We had some snow and we drove way into where we were going to be deer hunting Thanksgiving week.
Okay. Well,
And we picked up a big buck track. And remember we were
that
trying
one
to
had us fooled because it was going one direction. We
he
followed
crossed
it.
the road twice. We had to sort out
Yeah.
which side of the road he was on. So remember there was a long
Log in the road. Yeah.
winter road
Yep.
that at the dead end of this road that kind of went down to the right. And I was like, I bet you if his latest track is going to the right. He probably went across that winter road. So I booked her down that winter road real quick, and there was nothing I'd come across. So like, well, he must have been gone down in there, didn't like it, and come back across the road. And yeah, that was
a huge buck.
Well, you can tell your version of it.
Oh, it was crazy. That was the first time I ever tracked. So I was just in awe of how you guys did that. You know, I was with you and you said, I said, what do I do? You said, stay back far enough so you're not bumping into me and keep your eyes open. I said, all right. So I didn't take it serious enough. I kept my gun on my shoulder, which I should have had it in my hand. But we got into a spot and he took us through some clearings and he took us through some real rough stuff. And I said, holy smokes, Paul, they go through some crappy stuff. He says, we're getting close. He says, be ready, we're getting close. He says, when they go through the thick stuff like this, they're usually trying to ditch us and they're getting into the... So sure enough, we got on top of a little knoll. He says, sit right here. And he says, I'll go down in there for a second. So I'm sitting there, not even paying attention, looking around at everything, just in awe of everything. I hear snap, snap, and I thought it was Paul. Well, Paul went down in the bushes and the buck came out and he was standing from me to the wall and here I am. I have my mouth wide open going, Paul, buck. I think I got a touch of buck fever that day because that was a big buck.
That was probably one of the biggest bucks.
Oh, that buck, I bet you that's as big as the one you shot last year. That was all 240, 250.
You tracked it with me, Dad. One day.
We did.
We played with that.
Yeah, same area. I know the winter road you're talking about, Paul. And stuff.
When I went out down in the woods, we came up onto the end of a skid trail where they'd cut.
Is that where we
That's
jumped?
where you were standing.
Okay, yeah.
And I went down off that skid trail. And I remember looking at you. I could see where he stood there. And I'm like, he heard us coming. He stood right here for the longest time.
Yeah.
And I hear a deer take off from behind those woods.
Stopped right in front of me.
I went to grab my grunt call. It was full of snow. Yeah. And it just went like. And then I look over at you and you're going, big buck, big buck. Then we stood there. We waited there for about 30. I think you chewed at the time.
Yeah, I chewed.
And I was like, put a chew in.
He said, put it to chew in. We're going to sit here for 15, 20 minutes. So I'm like, we got to go. He said, no, he's going to go down there and he's going to stop. He's going to wait for us. I said, all right, you know what you're doing. I don't. Sure enough, we went down a little draw and come up over another knoll and across a little cut or a little opening. That Paul lifts up and I hear boom. I said, what are you shooting at? And I saw the buck running. I said, oh my God. I was hoping you'd hit that, but he was on the move.
Then the fun started because he went into the jack first.
Yeah.
Looped around, cut across back his track. He went back and forth through there.
He knew what he was doing.
That was the end of the day. We called it a day that day.
Yeah, we've talked about that, Paul. The first time, a good opportunity. Second time, good opportunity. After that, you could be in for a long day.
He wasn't a stupid deer.
No, he didn't get that big from being stupid for sure.
Yeah, we went hard that day, Paul. We actually jumped him right off the bat, Paul. We saw the doe going up over the hill.
Yeah, and I think we've told the story, but so we went in, we get to deer camp. Yeah. So after, I think it was maybe the week before deer camp or whatever, that you and I messed around with that deer. And then deer camp comes. And I remember you asking me that morning, where are you going to go hunt? So I'm going right back. Yeah. Because that buck, there was a pocket of does in there.
He was staying right there, yeah.
And I'm like, boys, he's hanging out there. And if those does are still there, he's probably, remember we cut straight across, right in there, and I come up over a little embankment, and I'm like,
his track was right there.
And you were like, boys, that's a big deer track.
And we didn't track it very long before we jumped it.
Nope, he hooked up with a doe.
Yeah, and we saw the doe going through a cut there over a bank, and he was off to the left.
Yeah. See, now he was bigger than that 9-point.
Oh, a lot bigger.
You and your dad went out, and I think you got him that next day.
That was the year right after we had the 2 bad winters.
Yep.
And it was my first year of pharmacy school.
2009, Paul?
Yeah. I was burnt out from school.
And I have a picture of that on my phone.
And I can remember I didn't hunt at all that season. There was no deer.
Very few.
And
it was tough.
I wasn't going to get to hunt. I was off Thanksgiving week. So I had...
Yeah, well, we put a lot of miles that morning before we even saw the track.
So, so
there wasn't many deer.
All I cared about was getting home and just getting a break. Yeah. Didn't care about actually shooting a deer. Just wanted to go out hunting. We got snow.
Yeah, we got 5-6 inches of snow when we went in there.
And we went out that morning. Of course, right after the snow, it can be next to impossible to try to find a deer track. We drove all morning till like 10:30. We drove
a couple hours, 2.5 hours. We were on our way back out by that beaver dam.
Yeah. Just before we get to the corner, you're like, oh, we just need to drive around the corner and see a deer making tracks.
Yeah, and there it was.
We come around the corner, and that was, I don't know, 500-600. That was a long ways down the road. And He just went, you know how a buck,
He didn't
they
stop.
just right straight across the
Yeah.
road.
Yeah, they go.
It's a good thing we were
quick.
looking because it didn't take him long to cross the
No,
road.
they
He had his
go
nose
across
down.
Head
and he was
down.
going.
Yeah. So we get up there and we bailed out. Started, remember he kept making scrapes?
Yeah.
He kept making scrapes. I kept saying, geez, we're going to catch up to him. And we finally did, but he was watching us.
Yeah.
He was out in the cut. Got a shot off at him, but didn't cut any hair. Then we
Well,
went back out.
you got him though. You got him a couple days
I
later.
did. So I went out the second day, quite certain I tracked the same buck. He was
Yeah.
kind of doing the same loop.
Because it was at 9 point.
And then Friday,
Yeah.
third day, I went right up. The day before, I had left a pocket of does. There was like 5 or 6 beds.
Right in that pocket of jack furs, wasn't it?
Right up on that. Yeah, there's like a spruce knob there,
Yeah.
all these jack firs. And there was deer beds everywhere. And I was like, you know what? It's the end of the day. Marked it on my GPS. And I'm like, I'll come back tomorrow because you were going to go out. And I was like, I'll come back tomorrow and don't want to mess anything up here. We went right straight up in there.
Yeah.
Picked him up with the doe.
Yeah.
Tracked him all day.
Yeah.
Ended up splitting him up. There was a little bit of confusion.
Yeah. He came right back
You had the doe in front of you.
in front of me. Yeah. She was right in front of me.
He circled back.
Yeah.
Circle back for his doe, yeah.
That was,
Yeah.
That was 200 and
215, 212 or something?
I think it was 215.
215.
I think it was 215. Yeah.
Yeah, that was nice. I think it was the only buck track I saw in the
That,
area.
we talked about, we had 2 really hard winters. The historic winter there with 200 inches of snow. And then,
that wiped out
yeah.
half the
yeah,
herd.
we were in
almost.
bad
There
shape.
was in the woods, there was not many deer. There was very few deer. That was the first year we didn't go to deer camp.
It was. Because everyone was kind of the same.
Yeah.
They're
It
just, what's the point?
yeah.
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 You know, it was like, yeah, it was a pretty dismal year, but didn't expect to be that successful.
No.
You know,
Well, that was a nice buck.
yeah, it was. Not the
Nice
big,
mature 9 point.
Yeah.
I mean 200, 212, 215.
he was,
For some reason I thought that was 223 pounds.
no,
I think it's 215.
215.
Keith. I've got it written down. I keep a log, a journal, so I would have it in there. We waited at Ben's.
Yeah,
I
when
think
he was
Ben
di-
Jr. was
no, it was a guy that was going in the border patrol.
okay.
It was some guy I didn't know, young guy.
Yeah.
And I can remember him looking at the deer, and people will judge a deer's weight by its rack.
Right.
So it wasn't the biggest rack in the world.
Yeah.
And I can remember him saying, oh, it was like 180. And it drug hard,
It drug
but we didn't
hard.
have a long drag.
Yeah.
And yeah, he gets up on the scales, and he's kind of like, holy smokes,
Yeah.
A little bit off.
215.
Yeah, it was a nice buck.
We talked about that too, Keith. You know, we had gone in the woods all day, and I don't think we crossed the road, Paul. We
No.
were in the woods all day, and after he shot the deer, we get the GPS out to see where we were, like 2 tenths. So you could almost spit and hit the road.
You're right there.
We're right there.
You go all day long, and you're thinking,
You think
holy frick,
You
we
could
got
be
a
miles
drag.
from the road. Or
but he
whatever.
kept you right in that same block of woods.
Yeah.
He was
He
staying
stayed right
there.
with that doe.
He was staying in there. Yeah.
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 He would not leave her.
It's amazing on how they do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would not leave her.
No.
You spotted her there earlier on in the day.
Yeah. Well, he came back to her.
Well, he was bedded. We couldn't see him at first.
Yeah.
And Dad's like,
The doe was
He's like,
down
"There's a
feeding
doe."
off mushrooms or off the trees and stuff, and she walked off. And when she did, he walked. He
you
come
see
right out and walked.
tines go through an opening.
Yeah, his head was
Jeez.
just
Yeah.
right through the quite a distance. I didn't try to take the shot offhand or anything like that.
It was her fault.
Yeah,
She got him.
She got him killed. Yeah.
She got him in a bad spot.
yeah,
But there's with deer hunting. I think all deer hunters are the same. They want a challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's hunting hard, like tracking, or hard shots. Like I think most deer hunters are something about
Yeah, I'm the hard shot.
you.
guy.
They want like you want like
I want a
a
challenge.
nice
shot, yeah.
long
I won't
tough
take
shot.
I won't pull the trigger unless I know I can hit.
Yeah.
That's going back to what me and Mark were talking about. That's from years of practice, and I've shot with that gun up to 800 yards.
And
And
you
I
got to
can-
shoot a lot.
And I can hit an 8x8 plate at 800 yards with that gun.
yeah.
So the only thing that'll affect me is the crosswind.
Yep.
And of course, if you got a 25, 35 mile an hour wind, I'm not going to take an 800 yard shot at a deer. Trust me, I'm not that stupid. But under 600 yards, that gun will hit a deer at 600 yards like your 270 hits him at 200.
Jeez,
It just knocks the living.
Yeah.
My farthest shot on an animal with that gun is a bear. That's across the road from here, right in the next field over.
Yeah.
And that was 526 yards.
Holy smokes.
And the second I tripped the trigger, he did 2 ninja rolls. He ran 30 feet and dropped.
That was it.
That was it. Put a hole the size of my fist up, backside of the ribs.
Jeez and crow. That's got a 26-inch barrel?
26 inch, yeah.
Muzzle brake on it?
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, I had the muzzle brake put on because it kicked like a mule.
How does it kick with the muzzle brake? Not bad.
Less than your 270.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd mentioned that those pumps, they kick pretty
It hurts. I just took Dad's out the other day
Did ya?
and sighted it in. I bruised my shoulder all up.
I shot a box of shells through mine when I first got it. And maybe I was too relaxed.
But there's no rubber on them.
No.
I
just
looked at
plastic.
it. Dad's got a plastic or butt plate. It's just a
Yeah.
plastic or steel
Yeah.
butt plate, and it just nails you
And I can remember the next day I reached up to go do something.
in your
And I was
shoulders.
like, "Jeez, why is my shoulder all sore?" I'm like, God,
pump action.
must have been shooting that.
That's why I was glad the one I found was 308, Paul.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll still kick, but
Well,
not.
normally when I'm shooting that,
Yeah.
you got a hunting jacket on, a
You don't,
sweater,
yeah,
I got
you
some
don't
padding.
notice. Yeah.
I was at the range with a t-shirt like this,
Yeah.
and I felt every bit of it.
Yeah.
After that second shot, I was like, ouch.
Matt, yeah.
So then I just held tighter. I said, I got to get it zeroed in. So,
Still shoots good.
yeah,
Again, what do you have for scope on it?
I put a Sig Sauer on it.
Did you really?
Whiskey 3, yeah, with a red dot.
What do,
Hellfire.
what do those run? Are they expensive or?
$299, $275, $299.
That's not bad.
They might have went up a little bit, maybe $325 now. But I think the Whiskey 3s are around the $299, $289 mark.
I'll have to
It's a Hellfire.
check
So
it
it's
out.
got a little dot. You got to
Yep.
run a 2032 battery in it. So you're right where your crosshair is. You got a red dot. You can either run it with a black crosshair or turn your dot on.
Okay.
With my vision, with far, I got progressive lenses now. So it's a lot easier with that red dot.
Okay.
Find your cross, put the red dot where you want it, and pull the trigger.
All right.
Works better with age. One young man like you be all right.
Well, I'm starting to notice a little bit of
But yeah.
Yeah, in your 40s.
if it's
there.
low light. Like
Yeah.
I had a camera
Yeah.
over behind the table there, and I was trying to do something on the back of it, and of course the wall was right there, and I kept going,
Trying to get farther back.
man,
Yeah.
Yeah.
what the frig is going on here?
That hit me about 42. I
Yeah,
lost
it
my,
was in my 40s, kid, and I had really good eyesight up until then, and now it's terrible for crying out loud up close.
Well, you see good at long distance, though.
Yeah, not as good. I still need glasses at long distance, and your arms aren't long enough to read anymore when you get in your 40s.
Put paper across your room.
Yeah.
So what's the plan for this year?
Same field.
Every day?
Yep. I'm off.
How big does it have to be?
It's going to have to be an 8-point. until the
Till
end.
the last day.
Until the last week.
Now, do you do any preseason scouting there, Keith? Do you have cameras
September.
up?
I don't put them up till September. I started 2-3 years ago. I started buying the cellular plan cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had Sky Points.
Those have gotten popular.
I still got 3 Sky Points, but I think I'm going to go to the stealth cams this year. I got 7 of them.
Yeah.
I got a few for Christmas, buy one get one free. So
Yeah.
I got 6 of those brand new, and then I just bought a brand new 360. So that one there, I'm going to put in the field,
No kidding.
so I can take a 360 view of.
yeah.
It takes 360 view pictures.
So generally,
And I
Keith,
usually do that in September.
yeah, over the years, you pretty much know what's there, what you're hunting over.
I pretty much know the ones that are living there.
Okay.
Thing about the rut, you never know what's going to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my next
In
question.
that field there,
If you get
you-
deer coming through that
Oh,
you
yeah.
haven't got on
Yeah,
camera a lot,
the
because
bucks-
we know that happens.
Most of the
yeah.
bucks are stuff that I've never seen.
Yeah, that's
usually
interesting.
They circle through.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've seen some big deer there.
yeah, they
big
can
deer.
they can move a long way during the rut and cover a lot of territory. Go into areas they're not usually in. Yeah,
If I'm patient and I sit there and I go every day, the thing is, people say, well, yeah, you sit in a blind and this and that. It's still a long day no matter how you look.
Oh,
at it.
I
Absolutely.
can't do it.
I
absolutely.
get there a half hour before daylight
yep,
because I want to walk up to my blind because
You're-
there's always deer in the field. You
you're
can't see them, but I walk in a half hour early, get my heater started to get the windows defrost because usually the windows are frosted there, second, third week of season. Get them all defrosted and get the heat turned down by the time legal time starts. And before I got my dog, I'd stay there from half hour in the morning till 10, 15 minutes after dark.
Yeah.
I wouldn't leave. I'd pack my lunch, bring everything with me.
Jeez.
If I had to pee, I'd pee in a soda bottle or whatever,
Right.
and I never left. But now that I got the dog, I'll take right around between 11 and 12, depending on how the activity is that day.
Okay.
And I'll leave for a half hour, let my dog out, and then I go back and I spend the rest of the day there. But I'm pretty much there.
That's I couldn't do it.
Do you keep any type of journal, Keith, as to how many deer you see in a season, and from year to year?
No,
or
I
it's
don't.
just a mental note in your
Mental note,
mind?
and I take a lot of pictures.
Yeah, you know if you're seeing a lot. There, I'm sure there's some years you
usually get resident deer. You're looking at in that field there. I got 7 to 9 resident does
Right.
and fawns there all the time.
Yeah.
And then you'll have 5 or 6 small bucks, anywhere from button horns, spikes, 3 points, 4 points, 5 points, little 6
Right.
points. And then if the food is right, if there's, see, so many of us do food plots on this stretch of road now.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So the buck could be staying on this side of the road until the rut starts, and I won't even know he's around until he comes to check out for the rut.
Until he starts wandering.
Because once they find food, and then they got food and water and cover, until they have a reason to move, they're not going to move.
Why take the risk?
Yeah.
Put yourself out there.
Yeah, that was another thing I was going to ask, Keith, that what you're doing has become quite popular around this
A lot of
area.
people-
The food
People
plots,
that hunt like I do,
right?
they all have tree
Yeah.
stand or cabins made now,
Yeah.
pretty much, and they're putting food plots in, and they're hunting
Exactly.
one property.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that became a thing probably 15 years ago because everything is posted so hard now that it's.
Right.
I mean, when you first met my daughter, I hunted from Caswell to Fort Fairfield.
Yeah, all over the place.
I had
Yeah.
40 fields that I hit. Had permission from all of them. Nothing was posted. All good areas. So back then, I used to get my deer every year, but it was in a pickup, going from field to field,
Yeah.
pulling a field. There's a deer. Oh, get out, shoot it.
Right.
So then the last 10, 15, since 2011, it's pretty much, I've been hunting 2 places.
One property
And they're
or
on
2
both
properties.
sides of you.
Yeah.
They're just not too far from here.
Yeah.
And now the last 4 years, I hunt one property and that's all I hunt.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
85, 90 acres.
Okay. Yeah, we see a lot of deer here. Lacey, sometimes she can't understand
Why you go to the
Why
woods?
you go to the
Yeah.
woods? There's deer running right out across the yard.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
It's hard to explain, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
they don't
I-
understand.
No, there's
I would
something
have
about
to say, Keith's method is very successful. Probably
every year.
Yeah, it would be far more successful than
Yeah.
the way I hunt. That
every year.
we're kind of poking hope when we go up in the woods. We
Yeah, but you guys are strictly meat hunters. You don't care if it's got a 20 point or 12 point. It's nice to have that big rack.
I
But you guys are looking.
I passed up spike horns but I've had some. I'm going
For
through
the-
your,
for the
your
most-
I'm going through your 90s, Keith.
Are you?
Yeah, and what you were saying you went through in the 90s, and I thought, man, when I retire, I'll have all kinds of time, and it'll, there should be no reason for me not to shoot a deer every year,
Yeah,
and
here we are.
that hasn't been the case. I've had more dry years and
Well,
successful.
It's a
and-
hard hunt. What you guys do? I mean, you're getting on the track. There's no guarantee
No.
that you're going
Here's,
to catch that
but
deer.
here's the kicker with tracking though, is it's circumstantial, but yeah, I have no problem shooting small deer, but I can pretty much guarantee
If you take off after a big
I
track,
got a big buck and like
Right in front of
I
you.
can make it. So
you're chasing a big buck.
I got a nice deer in front of me.
Yeah.
And whether it works out or not, or
Yeah.
because there was a year I shot a spike horn that last day of the year. And it was walking back on the deer that I was on.
Yeah.
Comes around the corner. And I can remember thinking,
You didn't want to
just,
shoot that, did you?
and then all I could think of was Lydia's little face if I showed up with that.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
screw it.
Yeah, it shot it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was tickled pink.
Yeah.
Just a spike horn. So we had some deer meat and
Yeah.
Lydia got to see
She
a
was
deer.
happy. I mean, I
deer
remember the
brought
picture
home.
with her. So hunting season starts. I'll go shoot 5, 6, 10 rounds out of it
Yeah.
just to get
Yeah.
comfortable with it. And then after that, I'm all set.
Yeah.
But I'll shoot my 22s and my 17s,
Yeah.
the cheaper stuff. Price of ammo now is crazy. So
Yeah.
Yes, you guys are just saying, so you don't have to shoot your deer rifle that you're actually hunting with.
no, you just need to shoot.
Just shoot
You can
anything.
do it at 22 with a pellet gun.
Yeah.
And what is it that you shoot a lot of?
My M22 Ruger
Okay.
22 I bought. I put a red dot on it, and that thing. Actually, I'm going to use that for partridge this year because at 50 yards, I can hit a partridge in the head with it.
No kidding.
Yeah, 50 yards and under, it's crazy.
And you've had a pellet gun that you've
Yeah, I bought
been using a
I
lot.
bought a pellet gun to keep the nuisance squirrels
Yeah, I did the same
at
thing.
bay at the lake, and but I enjoy just going out back, like I was telling Keith, and shooting cans with it and stuff.
Yeah.
And to shoot anything is better
Just
than
going through that
It's all
motion.
it's all same
over and
technique.
over
It's
and
Yeah.
breathing, holding,
Yeah.
holding still.
It has a
squeezing.
rifle scope on it. It has a Nikon rifle scope I put on it, and it weighs about the same. It's about the same size as a deer rifle, and
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, I got one. I got a Gamma.
That's what I bought.
77
Yeah.
millimeter. Yep.
just to like I say, just to practice offhand, to shoot offhand. And how old were you, Keith, when you got your first?
When I was my first deer,
Yeah.
wasn't till I think it was 1990, 91.
And you were
What was I? 91. I was 21 and 88,
okay, early 20s.
24 or something?
23, 24 when
Yeah.
I shot my first
Yeah.
deer.
Yeah. Now,
I'm
did
57 now.
you go with your father when you
No.
were no.
No.
He was a deer hunter, but
I grew up during the days where the men liked
Yeah.
to drink and play, and
Yeah.
he took his 2 weeks with the men, and they stayed drunk for a week and a half, and then
And then
right before they came home, so the women wouldn't get mad, they shot their deer and came home.
yeah.
where did he go?
Escort.
Escort. That was popular back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of deer up in
He'd
that
go for 2 weeks.
a lot of deer up in that
They
country.
wouldn't hunt at all for the first week and a half, and then the last 2 or 3 days they were there, they'd shoot their deer and come home, so the women wouldn't be mad.
Yeah.
Jeez, and girl.
Well, Keith,
My brother's pretty much the one that first I actually went hunting with and
yeah,
got in.
Pitt.
Dad was
Yeah.
just too busy with his buddies and drinking
Yeah.
at that time in my life.
Yeah.
How'd
I
you-
was fortunate. My dad liked the social aspect of deer hunting. He wasn't a serious deer hunter. We've talked about that a lot. He enjoyed being around the men and the card games at night and having a beverage with them and stuff. And the deer hunting was really secondary. It wasn't really that important to him. But he did take me, and so I.
But you went up to deer camp once with them.
Yeah.
How'd that work out?
That was that's a story unto itself there. That
Why don't you share
there
that?
there was no deer hunting going on.
There's no sleep either, was there?
He had, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 guys, older men, and I was 18 when I first went up with them. And yeah, they stayed up all night playing cards and socializing, drinking. And they'd go to bed about 6 o'clock in the morning, and
When it was time to go hunting.
when it was time to go hunting, yeah. So
Get back up that night and play poker and socialize all night again.
yeah,
Oh,
they,
my God.
they did it. It was a Veterans Day weekend every year. It was Veterans. There was guys, Keith, that never even brought a gun. They didn't even
They just
bring a
wanted
gun.
to get away to deer
They
camp.
they just went up to. It was a social event.
Yeah.
It had to show you what their track record was in all the years they did it. One guy shot a deer.
Yeah, shot a little doe.
Shot a
wasn't
little
it?
deer, and that was back in the day, the 50s and 60s.
When you
And
could shoot either or.
there was a lot of deer too.
Yeah.
It was good. It was good deer hunting. If you were a serious deer hunter, you had a good chance of shooting a deer. And of all those years and all those men, they shot one deer. So my dad never shot a deer
So
in
deer
his
camp
life.
to them had a different meaning than it
Yeah.
does to us.
Well, it sounded a lot like your dad. I mean, it must have been a thing of that time. Keith,
that era, yeah. My dad
Yeah.
and your dad and
Didn't you get up in the morning to go out deer hunting? Hadn't
Yeah.
really slept.
Yeah.
And one of the guys, I want to go with you.
Yeah. One of the heaviest partiers at that, he says, I'll go for it. Well, my intention to go deer hunting was to go find a place, get out of the truck and go in the woods. But I couldn't tell this guy no. I didn't want him to go. So I thought, well, now I'm stuck in the truck. I'm not going to get out of the truck. We're just going for a ride.
okay.
And the chances of us driving around, So he did. He went with me. And I remember we were probably a couple hours into it, maybe 8 or 9 in the morning. And I'm going down the woods roads, and they're bumpy. And I look, and his head's hitting. I could hear his head hitting
Bouncing off the window. Passed
Yeah,
out.
and he had his Budweiser there, holding his Budweiser, and yeah.
Oh, my God.
That was not a deer hunting trip.
No.
You didn't go back up to camp, did you? Deer camp.
I think I went 2 years, and that
Called it good.
maybe 1, 2 at the most.
Yep.
And I thought, I love to deer hunt too much to go up there and stay up all night and not deer hunt. My intention was to deer hunt, not to party. So I broke away from that group.
That's me when it comes to deer season. I don't play around. I might have a hard time. I don't anymore. I get up early now, but I get used to it. But during deer season, it's no problem. The alarm goes off at 4:30.
No.
There's no snooze or nothing. Just
Nope.
up and going.
Yeah.
If it's for work, I'll hit snooze 2 or 3 times.
Oh, I know. Well, that day we went up in the woods. We get up at 2:00, I think, or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
We left here early.
We left 2:30, 2:30, 3 o'clock.
We
when
were on the
left.
road.
Because you wanted to be in there to hunt. While we were in there, you wanted to be able to shoot while we were
Yeah. We had a long ride ahead of
on a
us.
long road.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was I used to do that a lot, too. If I wanted to go in and...
Well, when I went to Millinocket, up to
Yeah.
Island Shin Pond, we'd leave at 2:30 in the morning.
No kidding.
Yeah. And when we'd get on the Huber Road and start going into the 3 roads we hunted on, it was just getting legal time as we pulled into that road, so we could hunt from there all the way in.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we'd have to leave at 2:30 to do it.
And that brings up a good topic. Someone had asked, like, how do we tell the size of a deer by their tracks? And it's weird. It can be pretty regional. Like you get, like, I can remember we were hunting that area. Remember the deer were a lot smaller?
Yeah, they were.
And I can remember walking in there going, man, I can't find a nice buck to track. And ended up shooting a buck that was like 5.5 years old.
Yeah.
And not a very big deer.
Yeah, and it was consistent.
Decent rack on them, though?
Decent rack, but
not
not,
but
a
not
very big
huge,
deer.
but not huge. And it was consistent, though, Paul. You'd shoot a
Mature buck,
4.5,
age-wise.
5.5, 6.5-year-old deer, and it would be 150, 160 pounds.
Yeah, that 10-point I shot, my real nice 10-point rack, that only weighed 159 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had no body to it. It was just, it looked like a dwarf.
Yeah. That was
It
like
had a big
these.
chest. Like the front end looked like a natural buck with a big neck because it's third week of hunting.
Yeah.
It had nice big beams on it. It was 3.5, at least a 3.5-year-old deer, but 159 pounds. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the nicest racks I've ever shot. And it was just
Small
one of the
deer.
smallest bucks I've ever shot.
Jody shot one there, kind of the same thing.
10-pointer.
Nice, beautiful rack.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was 170,
Yeah,
in that area.
just-
Maybe
and that one
175.
also- He was pretty shagged out. His back end.
that was the end of the season.
Yeah.
His backbone was
His
sticking
backbone
out.
was sticking right up out of his,
Yeah.
out of his
He
back.
rutted himself almost to
Yeah.
death.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of deer that week. I think
Yeah.
You saw yourself.
Yeah, 30 or so.
All those.
Yeah, we were hunting an area that had a lot. It had a lot of deer back in that time. So, and
yeah,
Keith, like I say, Keith was in the same. He was just.
That was
east
back
of
in the
us.
90s,
Yeah.
early 90s.
Yeah, he was in the east.
But I can remember going down there going, man, I can't find a nice buck track, and then shooting a buck and it being a mature buck by age, but not a very
just not
big
weight-wise.
deer
Yeah.
relative to...
See, what's weird around here is they're big bodied and the racks ain't big.
That's kind of common in northern Maine.
Because if you look at my last 8 bucks that I've shot around here, all the racks look like they got the same. They all look the same.
Yeah.
Shorter
They've got
times,
that...
average, but they're all 189, 190, 193, 180, with barely any antlers on them.
You'll see guys that shoot like, say, a 250-pound buck or whatever, nice, great big buck, and just has like a small 8-point rack. Nothing exciting.
Like your 12-point. There's a few of those around here, but they're far few in between.
Yeah, that was a big deer.
And to see one of them to get one of them in the field up here, everything's working on your side.
Yeah.
Because them boys don't come out in the field during daylight
They're not going to show
unless
themselves.
they're really, really being stupid at one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a nice buck one morning. I was getting up for work. And no, I was off that day. It was a Saturday. And I walked out of the bedroom and I almost went out hunting. And I look and I can see a deer coming down across the field. Nice buck. Just loafing her across the...
Heading that way.
Yeah, went right down across the road.
Yeah.
Right out across the... I'm like, I could have shot the thing.
Yeah, you could have.
Like, what the heck? Deer season.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of snow on the ground. Yeah, right out in the middle of the day. right across the middle. That field's wide open over there. You walk right down.
But they'll sleep right in your patch of woods here during the day.
Yeah, I've jumped them up out back here, walking out back.
And all of a sudden, right around 3 o'clock, because my old blind used to be able to watch that whole power line right up to the top. And I'd be around 3 o'clock, and all of a sudden I'd see 4 or 5 deer walk out of the corner of your block of woods and start coming down toward me.
Jeez.
So it's they know. I mean, them deer know.
They're not stupid.
They'll stay as close to a resident. You could have 10, 15 deer 50 yards from your house here.
No one goes out
there. You
there.
never go in there and bother them.
They're
comfortable. They'll lay there all day long.
Yeah, no one goes out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's one other trait, though, that I got to talk about with Keith there about his gun. You can have a gun that is super accurate, and you can be super accurate with it at the range, punching holes in the paper.
It's a different story shooting an animal.
But when you have got to have nerves of steel, nerves of a sniper, because at 300, 400 yards, there's no wiggle room for...
There's not much wiggle room.
No. You have got to be able to control your breathing and your heart rate. And I admire that, Keith, because I don't know if I could do that. That would be the hard part with that type of hunting, to watch a deer...
Especially a big buck.
Yeah.
A big buck. Yeah. To watch and knowing my crosshairs, Keith, I got to tell you, would probably be all over that deer. It would be...
But I'm not shooting this freehand.
No, I know you're not, but that's what I'm talking. Even with the rest,
like in my shack, I got a 24-inch shelf made.
You were set up to shoot,
and if I'm not in my shack and I'm in a field, I got bipods.
Right.
So I'll lay on my belly.
And I'm sure Paul will have pictures of the gun on the. But that, like I say, what I've always admired about that is I've had that situation where I've had a deer and I've shot him and stuff, but I'm thinking, man, to watch a deer and prepare to shoot at it is, I mean, it gets me ramped up. And you got to control all of those variables, heart rate and breathing and stuff, to make an accurate shot.
Well, one of the tricks I use now, remember I said I want 8 points or bigger.
Yeah.
First thing when I see a buck come out at 400, 500, 300 yards, I'll look at the head.
Right.
And if I can see that rack without having to stare at it, good enough. Now I get off the head. I don't even look at the head again. I know that's the buck.
Pick a spot on the body.
I pick my spot on the body.
Yeah.
I wait till he's perfectly broadside. And as soon as that green dot on that Trijicon is behind the shoulder or in the shoulder, actually, I like to shoot the shoulder myself. I like to take both shoulders out. People ask me why I do that, because we live only a few hundred yards from the border here. So I don't want to be chasing them into Canada.
That's you are absolutely.
And I'll sacrifice a little bit of meat to have that deer dead within 30 feet of where I shot it.
Absolutely.
Because we're literally less than
right.
100 yards
it's right there
from the border.
Yeah, that is.
A deer on adrenaline. I've seen deer shot in the heart run 100, 150 yards.
So you're a scapula shooter, and that's exactly.
I like the scapula.
I take high shoulder.
Not
way up.
No.
I'll take the center of the shoulder, and I line them both up, and I drill them.
Yeah.
Because usually when I pull the trigger, the front legs wobble, his nose hits the ground, his back legs will kick a couple times, and then he'll do a spin over, and that's it. It's all over.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Keith. I did that on a moose hunt there in 2018. I was with my wife and it was just the two of us, and we're older, and there was no chasing moose through the woods, wounded. And
take him right in the scapula.
So I hit him right in the hump, Keith. I actually went a little higher, went into the hump there, and paralyzed him.
Yep.
And
you had to shoot him in the head.
Yeah, I did. I went up, but he was not going anywhere.
You start taking I'll give you an example, 400 or 500 yards. Like when I was hunting behind here, where my shack was way on top of the hill. To the edge of the field was 400 yards. The safest shot I could take in this field without the road, because I had to keep dirt in the way.
Yeah.
I could go to 600 yards.
Yes.
And then there was still plenty of dirt that I'd be shooting into and not going. I couldn't see your house anyways. Your house is way over here. But for me to be safe, I got to be shooting into something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I would be looking, I see the wires, and I'm not going to take that shot. Will the gun do the shot? Yes. Would I take that shot? If I would have saw a buck like that at 600 yards, I wouldn't have hesitated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had all my distances marked out. Well, that's another thing. When you're sitting in a shack, people say, well, how do you know your distance? When you're sitting in a hunting shack, you got a lot of time. So you take your rangefinder, and on both sides of the field, you pick an object, range it. Pick an object, range it.
Yeah.
So after a while, you know if a deer is even with this object or you got all your points set up.
You know
from,
exactly.
from 200 all the way to 400 yards or 500, whatever it may be. So now you just save the time of looking in your rangefinder because you've already got your predetermined distances.
Yeah.
Now it's just adjusting my scope.
Okay.
So I go to the range, I dial in dead on at 100. I zero my scope to 100 on my turret.
Yep.
So if I got to shoot 525 yards and it says 7.25, I go to 7, one click, 7.25.
That's your,
And I aim right square in the shoulder where I want to hit, and it's right where it is.
Yeah.
Days will go.
But like I say, that to me, that's the talent of that type of hunting, Keith. And I think there's a lot of people that couldn't do that. They couldn't sit in a blind and watch a deer at 400 yards.
Keep their crap together.
And keep it all together and make a good shot consistently. And I'd be the first to admit I'd probably be one of the.
If you don't keep it all together and you start shaking, you start getting buck fever, you might as well not even pull the trigger.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think there's a lot of guys that would struggle with that, Keith. I think there's a lot of people that would.
Like I said, the thing that helps me is I don't concentrate. Now, if that walked out in the field and you concentrated on that rack all the time, you're going to get buck fever. You're going to get the shakes. You're going to get the.
Start thinking about it.
You're still overthinking it.
That's a big
all
rock.
you need to know is it a buck I'm going to shoot? I put the crosshairs on the buck, or I use my binoculars. I'm shooting that buck. I make up my mind when I look at it the first time, and then I don't look at the head no more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I start waiting for my perfect broadside shot, and then I take them.
Yeah. I did that with the first buck I shot. I don't look at its head. Just you'll know,
You'll know when you first see it.
exactly.
It's
and
like, oh my God.
I just concentrated
that's
on the
enough of
front
that.
shoulder there
Yeah.
and shot it.
But that's what happened to me back in the 2000s.
Yeah.
I wasn't used to seeing that deer that caliber.
Yeah.
And during the 2000s, every hunting season, I saw something that caliber rack,
Big buck.
Yeah.
and I missed them.
Yeah.
I never had buck fever in my life. I used to make fun of my brother because he'd get buck fever and miss. At a target, like we were talking a while ago, shooting at a 1-inch bullseye at 100 yards, he'd cloverleaf that all day
Absolutely.
long.
Had the talent, had
Put
the
a live
ability.
deer out there, 200 yards, miss it by 10 feet
That's the
because
trick.
of buck fever.
Yeah.
And I used to tease him, and I don't believe in karma, but something came around and bit me in the butt. I teased him one time too many, and I got hit with a decade of that.
Yeah.
And it took me a decade to shake that.
No kidding.
It really did.
Yeah.
I
People
could shoot
say-
paper like crazy, but when it came to a deer, I'd get shaken up so bad that I started missing.
And that's exactly what I was talking. You can have the equipment to do it and the ability to do it with paper, but it's a whole different ballgame
It's a
when you
different
put
ballgame when you have something like
a
that in front
live
of you.
animal in front of you and stuff, and you got to make a
And
shot.
I don't like to wound an animal.
Of course,
I don't like to shoot.
nobody does.
I
No.
don't.
Yeah.
But my type of hunting, I have the choice where you guys don't.
Right.
You see a deer in the woods, you only got.
Right.
That might be the only shot
we're
you have.
taking
You're
we're taking
it.
some
second.
shots that
Me in the field, if
yeah.
a deer's out there 400 or 500 yards and he doesn't even know I'm there, I'm in a box blind. He can't see me. He can't smell me.
Yeah.
I got all the time in the world
Yeah.
to figure out where I'm going to hit, where I'm going to take him, or if he's moving, he's going to stop. He's going to take a bite to eat. I can wait.
Yeah.
I don't have to rush my shot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, that's
that's
a good
why I make sure when I pull the trigger on a deer that, especially in the last 10 years,
You know it's going to be a dead
when
deer.
I pull the trigger, I know where I hit that
Yeah.
deer. There's
Yeah.
no guessing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he'll be laying there.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, you're good at what you do. You've had a lot of years of practice
I've
with
gone
it.
through some bad years too, like I told you.
Well, I think everyone does.
I had a
They all
decade.
do.
I was like, what happened to me here?
They have
This ain't me.
dry spells. And people say you never know when buck fever is going to strike.
No.
It can happen to anybody, anytime.
Yeah.
But any level of experience.
What and you did it last year, Paul, because you watched that deer for an hour and stuff.
He was so far, the deer last year, and it was so early in the season, I didn't feel any pressure
Yeah.
to I had track and snow, and it was a long ways away, and I didn't have binoculars on me, and I used a 1.5 to 5. So through the gun, all I saw was, I could see main beam. I'm like, oh, that's a nice buck. And it
You had no idea what the rack looked like.
stayed at that. It was a nice buck.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I kept sitting there thinking, if I can't get a shot, I'll make my way down there and I'll have a fresh deer track to
Yeah.
play
he
with
won't
all
be
day.
far away.
No pressure really.
Yeah.
Now, if I had known it was as big as it was, that may have been a different different scenario. I may have pushed the envelope a little more, but I didn't know.
No, it's we all have different methods, and we
It's nice to kind of compare and contrast all the different. And northern Maine, you really have that, because we were talking earlier today. Eastern northern Maine is all field, farmland, basically. Yeah. Then you go to western northern Maine, and it's industrial forest. Mm-hmm. So where you hunt kind of establishes how you hunt.
But the last 10, 15 years, the hunting shacks have become a big thing.
Yeah, they have.
For people like me that do the still hunting.
And the food plots.
They're going into food plots and...
Yeah, and I think, Keith, and you touched on it there. I think a lot of the reason is access to land that you used to be able to hunt.
I used to hunt
anywhere.
20, 30 properties anywhere. From Caswell to here is 20, 25 miles. Yeah. So from Caswell, Limestone, Fort Fairfield, I hunted everything in between.
Yeah, but also the hunting videos of watching people on the videos. They've been doing that for years down south or whatever.
And it's picking up here.
And you watch those and you say, well, why not here?
Yeah. Plus the marketing. You go into the stores now.
Right.
The sporting goods stores, all you see is seed or whatnot for food plots and
that has become
food plots. And
that is, like I say, that has become a big thing. I mean, like I say, watching the videos.
Well, the way I
stuff,
look at it is you're taking, even if you spend $500 to $1,000 in food plots. I used to spend almost $1,000 a year out there.
No kidding.
But I was feeding 35 deer.
Yeah.
So to me, I was getting set. Even all I wanted was one.
Right.
But I was helping the whole herd.
Yeah.
They didn't have to fight for food. Soybeans, they had soybeans up until middle of February. So basically, you kept them deer fed till February, middle of February. Then they only had a month before a month and a half. Yeah. But they'll come out, they'll eat them soybeans all winter long.
Well, there's no doubt that it's helped the deer herd. I mean, the deer kill in this township is fairly high. You know, and
there's a lot of food plots in this town. I enjoyed when I went with him. Yeah, I was like a little kid in the candy store. I couldn't believe that was that. Yeah. You get on a track like that, look impossible, and all of a sudden,
there he is.
Wow.
Never know when it's gonna.
The only thing is, you got to keep your hand and your gun on your hand.
Got to be ready.
Your hands not on your shoulder.
There, should we end it there?
Yeah, that's probably.
We're just about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, Keith, thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks
for
having
me.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Have someone else's perspective that hunts differently than us, and poor Lacey has to deal with.
She couldn't
November hunting.
She couldn't get away from it, Paul.
From all angles. She'll say, God, November's coming. That's all I'm going to hear about.
What was funny, when Lacey was early teens, hunting season came, I'd get up in the morning and she'd wake up. Where you going? Going hunting. If it was on a Saturday, I'm coming.
Oh, that's neat.
Well, get up and get ready.
She likes it. She likes to go.
I never had to ask her.
No, she likes it.
If it was on a Saturday and she was off, she'd come. She might sleep first 2 hours in the truck.
Oh, you get her in the vehicle.
She was in the truck. Yeah. That poor kid, I had her on deer several times. She shot one time, 3-point or 4-point, hit it high shoulder, missed everything that could kill it.
Yeah.
And it was a 223, so the bullet bounced and came in the neck. That was on youth day. Well, the next Saturday, a guy that lives just down the road ended up shooting it and found a 223 bullet in it.
No kidding.
Yeah.
But she was sick for a week that she hit that deer and couldn't find that deer.
Yeah.
And when you guys first started dating, I let her shoot one of the biggest bucks I ever seen in my life, and I wasn't tagged out yet. What a father does for their kid, you shoot it.
Yeah.
And she missed it. But that was a big buck.
Well, maybe this year.
I've been trying to get her to come out there for the next. I said, you want the deer meat? You don't picky. I said,
come shoot it.
If I got a spike or whatever showing around there all the time, come over and shoot the stupid thing.
Maybe we can get a video of her shooting a deer.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. So, alrighty. I guess that's about it. So until next time, get outside.
It's good for the soul.
See ya.